things in your life. The statistics are staggering. If you look at statistics, and I know some of us may love statistics, 40 million plus people are basically living in modern slavery, and many of them are women and girls. It's not just about statistics. Sometimes what people think is poverty is the main reason why a lot of these girls are vulnerable and not able to pursue their dreams. However, if we look deep, in many societies across the world, the community, it is the patriarchal sentiments which has never encouraged girls to have their own identity, to be part of a community, or to think freely to pursue their dreams. However, we know and thank God that many of these girls have shown the courage, have shown the determination to rise up to all the challenges around them and create their own destiny. And here we are with some of those girls. Rupanti Munda comes from a tribal location in the interiors of Eastern India. She had to fight moral policing from an early age when she expressed her feelings to play a sport at her village and also at the district levels. However, she persisted and got selected for nationals. She had to turn a breadwinner when suddenly her brother and father were actually murdered by the Naxalites. And she had no other option to leave the sport and start mending for her families. However, thanks to one of our partner organizations, Ahan Foundation, she resumed the sport and made it to the Homeless World Cup in Norway in 2017. Today, she runs a coaching academy. In spite of getting multiple lucrative offers from various organizations, she wants to give back to her own area, her own location, her own community. Her courage is legendary. Gothai belongs to a small town in the southern part of India. At a very early age, she was detected with epilepsy, severe seizures, so that impediments a lot of her activities. On top of that, she had a single mother who had multiple jobs to make sure that she goes to a private school, get the right kind of care and attention. However, eventually, she had to move to a government school. And there, she was exposed to a huge education access gap, which was not good for her with her condition. She started playing a very unique multi-gender sport, which is becoming now very popular, called Frisbee. However, there were a lot of social pressure, but she continued to play. And then she went on to represent India in the Under 20 World Championships in Sweden. Again, with the support of one of our partner organizations, UPAI. She has a dream to become a teacher and to help educate underprivileged kids like herself. If she could do with all her challenges, we feel that she can inspire a lot many girls. Her courage is legendary. Akanksha Kapse. She belongs to a slum in the central part of India. Her parents were daily wagers. She grew up in extreme poverty. And whatever experiences she had that made her turn into a very lonesome character, very low on confidence, and that resulted in a lot of mental health challenges as well. Many parts of India are still suffering from a very strong patriarchal prejudice, which does not allow girls to participate in sports. She had a lot of problems pursuing what she loves. to play, and that is soccer. Thanks to Slum Soccer's intervention, which is one of our partners, she could play again and then participated at district and state levels. This transformed her personality totally. She slowly started becoming more confident. She was able to express herself better in the field of sport. And of course, that helped her have a totally new dimension and aspiration towards life. Today, she's a spokesperson and a mentor for other girls in our community. Her courage is legendary. If we look at all these stories, we realize that there is some inherent strength which lies within these girls. It's not about KickOff Solutions, or it's not about organizations who are supporting them. I think it's about their own courage, which just needs to be nurtured. And we feel very strongly about that sentiment. We are here to identify such stories of courage which are already existing and use them, leverage them to inspire others. We know that it is inspiring us. And with that, we have come to our mission, which says we can transform lives through sport with real and contemporary hero stories of girls who play, who have the passion to make a difference, who have fought every day to be there where they are against all challenges. And this continues to be our spirit. So without much ado, here I am introducing our expert panel today. If you look at these panel, the only thing I would say is we are honored to have you all here. This panel was chosen with a strong purpose of commitment towards sports, towards community, and people who already have a lot of experiences. They can inspire us with their own journey and share their advice as we start our new journey as a new organization. Let me call out our panelists today. Mubarak Haruna. Hi, Mubarak. I don't know whether people can see your name. It's good to wait. We'll talk more about you. We have Carla Svensson Haslam, Chris Shelton, Kadiatu, who we will fondly call Katie, and Victor. Thank you all for being here. All right. Starting with Mubarak. Mubarak, you are a phenomenon. I mean, when I saw you first on the internet, I was like, oh my God, who is this guy? How old is he? Mubarak is a teenage sensation, soccer sensation from Nigeria. Interestingly pursuing math and computer science major in California. And of course, Mubarak, you have a lot of other things that we see, not just your studies, not just your sports. At this young age, you have taken the effort and the commitment to help a lot of nonprofit initiatives. Why don't you tell us something more about your journey and these initiatives?
Oh, thank you very much for that fantastic introduction. Good evening, everyone. So my name is Mubarak Osir Miza Haruna. I'm 21 years old, from Nigeria. I'm a junior at St. Mary's College of California, studying mathematics and computer science. I also play for the men's soccer team, their Division I school here in California. So how my journey in a nonprofit started was at the age of 11. I founded my my soccer club because I was seeing that a lot of youth around the community where I grew up in Lagos, Nigeria, didn't have the access to, to play sports anywhere, and I just wanted to give more opportunities to underprivileged youth my age or younger, to be able to have access to play sports. And with the sponsorship of some companies back home in Nigeria, I was able to organize tournaments for them so like they could get exposure and bring scouts to be able to, you know, see this talented, young players. And then subsequently, I joined Gear 'em Up. They're a nonprofit started by my cousin here in California. So what we do is we give athletic apparel, which we get from universities here in America, and we give this athletic apparel and other educational resources to underprivileged youth across Africa. In December 2018, we went to Nigeria and we gave a lot of athletic apparel, like soccer boots, athletic clothing, sports gear to these kids. And then also in December 2019, we went to South Africa and we partnered with Nike, where we gave a lot of Nike gear to underprivileged youth in Johannesburg. Things a lot of these youth, because they're so underprivileged, they don't even have the tools, the equipment, the gear to even participate in the sport. So you see they're using torn shoes, they're making like balls out of tape and paper, but we want them to be able to have, the same quality of equipment and gear that we have, that we're fortunate to have. And also in 2020, in 2019, December, we had our very first sports and STEM camp where we brought about 50 underprivileged youth in Lagos, Nigeria. And then we trained them in like the fundamentals of basketball, soccer, track. We also gave them drones, where we taught them how to fly drones and manipulate them. And then another nonprofit I'm involved in is Inspire Youth Initiative. This is a nonprofit that caters to the next generation of African leaders and less privileged youth in Africa. I don't know if you all have been seeing the news out of Africa, the violence, the police brutality, the killings in Nigeria, the NSARS in Congo, what's happening with young children in Cote d'Ivoire, sexual violence, like it's becoming very rampant. And I'm just trying to give the youth, like we have a voice, like we can change all these circumstances. We should hold our leaders accountable, and we should support each other and try to lay a good foundation for the next generation to come, so they don't have to suffer these experiences that we have suffered. Thank you.
Sorry, Subrata, you're on mute.
Good call out. Thank you. Thanks, Mubarak. We'll come back for more, for your understanding more on your youth activities and your dreams. Chris, did you have a point? I thought you raised your hands. All right, cool. Next up is Carla. Carla, it's been remarkable to go through your profile, and I was so excited just reading it. I mean, looking at the number of hats that you have worn, you have, of course, been a professional player, represented Colombia national team. You have had a very colorful media broadcasting experience. You were the first female to call out a men's team. That comes out like very strongly. And then, of course, what are you doing today? You are like studying law. And then There is refugeesoccer.org where you are a board member. Help us understand more as to what kind of inspired you to have these choices in life and what motivated you as a sports person in the early years of your life and then experiencing so many other professions now.
Well, thank you so much for that introduction. You make me sound far cooler than I actually feel that I am. So I greatly appreciated that. It's been quite a journey. Any of these things that are listed on this slide, if you were to talk to me as a 10-year-old girl, I would have not have planned on doing. I mean, I knew I loved soccer, but I would have never thought that I would have the opportunity to play with the U20 Columbia national team, and then for the opportunity to play college soccer, just because those were opportunities that my family members hadn't had, my parents hadn't had, and my grandparents hadn't had. As mentioned with Colombia, I'm Colombian, my mother's Colombian. And when I went to go play, I was in high school. When I went to go play, when I moved to Colombia and when I went to go play there, I was surrounded and I lived with a team of girls who were so talented. I mean, they were incredible soccer players and they were incredibly bright and they just had so much potential. And it was really interesting talking to so many of them when I was there. Their dreams, while they wanted to, win a World Cup or go to the Olympics, what they ultimately wanted was to be able to receive a college scholarship and be able to get an education. But unfortunately, because of so many of the immigration barriers in the United States and just immigration barriers in general, a lot of them weren't able to achieve that goal. And it always bothered me. It always bothered me that here were these incredibly talented women who had so much to offer, and yet they weren't able to achieve some of those goals because of immigration barriers, because of poverty. And so when I returned to the United States to play college ball, I played at BYU. So Mubarak, I played against St. Mary's many a time. But when I came back to play college ball, that was something that really bothered me, was that I had gotten this opportunity to go to college and to get it paid for. That's something my parents wouldn't have been able to do, and I would have had to have taken out a loan or something. And these opportunities came to me, and it bothered me that there were others that didn't have that when I knew they were just as talented, if not more. And so that's what kind of sparked this, was this idea that I want to be involved in helping youth, but especially in helping women and in helping girls be able to achieve the potential and the goals that they have, because I know that there are so many talented women and girls out there, whether it be in soccer or whether it be in education, whatever it may be, in sports, in school. There are so many talented girls out there who, given the opportunity, could make something of that opportunity, and it was through being able to play college soccer and go to school that I was able to make the connections into broadcasting. I was originally a political science major, but ended up being connected with people who put me into the broadcasting arena. And I'm very grateful because I had people who believed in me from the very beginning. I didn't have this, crazy broadcasting resume. I didn't have all this experience, but I had people who were willing to believe in me. And I think of my boss, my producer, who offered me the job to call games for the Real Monarchs at the time. It's a USL team out of Salt Lake under the Real Salt Lake franchise. And he told me, we've never had a female call a men's professional sport in Utah. Usually women do the sideline reporting, but we've never actually had a woman actually call the game as either the play-by-play or the color commentator. And I had been doing it for quite some time for women's games, and I'd been doing it for quite some time for men's college soccer. And I just have always been appreciative of the confidence that he had in me and the belief he had in me. And I wanted to give that to the other girls in my community too. I wanted them to know that I believed in them. And that was kind of how I got connected to Refugee Soccer. I met Adam Miles, who's the CEO and founder of Refugee Soccer, and explained to him, look, I want to help women and girls in other countries who are looking for opportunities. And I also want to help the women and girls in our own community know that they are believed in and give them opportunities. And so that's kind of how I got connected to it. And I got doing that. I got broadcasting. I got working with Refugee Soccer, and I loved it. But I still felt like I had something more to give. And I realized that I wanted to be the one in the room making those decisions. And so I decided to go to law school. And I'm just about to finish. I'm super excited. And one in one more semester, I'll be graduated and I'll be preparing to take the bar. And yeah, mostly you said it perfectly. What my emphasis has been in immigration law and in civil rights. And I've loved being able to use that information to hopefully help the women and girls in my community here in Utah.
That's awesome. I hope more and more people have that sense of giving back that you always shown in your life. Our next speaker introduction is Christopher Shelton. Chris, first of all, heartiest congratulations. I know the Booker T Foundation is going to celebrate their 100 years next month.
Absolutely.
Right? So many congratulations.
Thank you.
Chris, you have had such an amazing journey through being an athlete at a young age, then becoming a coach, giving back in your own way. You have had a pretty solid competitive corporate life, if I may say, with all those pharmaceutical companies.
Yes.
And then you are here, community services. And it is so encouraging to see that you have touched upon so many aspects in your life. I automatically felt a sense of learning. There is so much to learn from you. All of us here, we are like kind of in different parts of our journey. But I think I would want you to share with us certain milestones in your journey and which helped shape your career to this point where you are going to leave a legacy to such an organization which has been giving back to society for 100 years.
Absolutely. First of all, I'd like to just say thank you for inviting me to this wonderful panel. And I don't know if I can follow Carla. Man, that was awesome. But anyway, my journey, my journey, I think, has been purposely guided by God, and I will put that up there foremost, is that he has continued to guide my footsteps and he continues to put things in my pathway. I have been playing basketball for quite some time. Started when I was real little, and I had an opportunity to go to Ball State and on a full ride scholarship. But I like to point out too, I know that when I was talking and kind of doing the dry run, I started reflecting on what this is all about. And it's about the girls, right? And I have 3 girls, and, being an athlete, I'm thinking, okay, what's my daughter's going to do? Right. And I just remember, them looking at me and saying, hey, Dad, I'm not going to be able to do what you do, but how do I coach them and motivate them that, there's life after sports, right? And, how do I get them to graduate? I am so proud. I mean, all of my daughters have graduated from college, right? And I think that sports was something that really motivated them, from a disciplinary standpoint. We could talk teamwork. We can go down the list, right? But I think that, for me in my career, I had the opportunity to coach AAU basketball, and it was for girls. And I did not even realize how talented these women were. They were great. Here I am, a college coach. I coached at University of Portland in Oregon, and that's the team that I led them to the nationals. And I still keep in touch with some of those girls today. And some of these girls, most of them, were from low-income housing. They didn't have anything, but what I was able to give them, along with, of course, many sponsors. I know you were talking about Nike and other places. Portland, Oregon is the home of Nike. And trust me, when you could give a kid, a girl that doesn't have much, some shoes, right? I think you called them boots, whatever it is, you can just see just the inside of them just come alive, right? And I always would coach the fundamentals, not only on basketball, but all about life, because I had that nurturing from my mom and my dad. My dad was a pastor and he didn't play, and my mom was the education side. So I kind of had both worlds, right? Which was good for me. I was in the pharmaceutical industry for quite some time and worked for some great reputable companies. I was a regional director, covered all states that you could imagine. And then one day I kind of said, I cannot continue to do this. How do I create my legacy? And, God has blessed me to where I have made money, which is great. But now how do I leave my legacy? How can I touch people's lives every day? And I work for a great nonprofit organization in San Francisco. As you mentioned before, we're celebrating 100 years at Booker T. Washington Community Service Center. Our event is November the 14th, and you can go online, and it's my plug real quick, and buy tickets. But we had Nancy, Congresswoman Lady Nancy Pelosi. She's on our list. Danny Glover, Mayor London Breed, Mayor Willie Brown, and I mean, just star-studded people that have been through Booker T to some kind of extent. And when you hear the story from Danny Glover, he tells you what Booker T meant to him. But, as we have this call, it's great for me to kind of say, I mean, I'm giving wraparound services to those that are in need. We had food pantry today where we fed 94 families. Soccer is a big thing now with not only our boys, but also our young girls. It's something for them to do. And now it's up to me to find outlets for them. I have connections with the Warriors. I got connections with the Giants. I think that especially from a woman's perspective or a little girl's perspective, and how do we continue to push them, they need to see it live. They don't just need to see it, on TV. Take them there. Let them taste it. Let them feel it. And I think that kind of sparks something in them to say, I want to be like that. And it's up to me to help them, guide them through the process. I'll just leave on this. I think that I tell people, and I tell people in life, I tell people who come into my office every day, and I just say the only way to create the future, or the only way to predict the future is to create it. So I'll end with that.
Thanks, Chris. Very well said. And we can relate very strongly with your fundamentals of experience and exposure. And that's one of our fundamental pillars as well as we move through in our organization. Our next speaker is Kadiatu Sidibe. Very few of us would have come across personalities, first and foremost, who are part of such an honorable organization, the United States Armed Forces. You're part of US Navy. And also, you are an instructor. You are an instructor for strategy, leadership, and economics in National Defense University. If that wasn't an introduction enough, you found time, commitment, passion, enthusiasm to create an organization like A Child for All, ACFA, and you wanted to give back to your own community back in Mali. And it's not an organization which is barely sustaining. You still have dreams which you are just starting on. Such a great journey, such an inspirational journey. I don't know what to ask you. Maybe, what is your guiding light in all through this?
Well, thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Thank you, Supreet, for this wonderful introduction. It's going to be hard to follow Chris and Carla and Mubarak's soup, but I'll give it my best. First of all, I will not follow Mubarak's soup because I will not tell you my age. But anyway, thank you so much. And thanks to KickOff Solutions for having me. I'm humbled to be part of this panel. I really am. So I'm Katie Sidibe. Yes, I go by Katie. I was born and raised in Mali, West Africa, and I'm the founder of A Child for All, ACFA, which is a US nonprofit organization with operations in Mali, in West Africa. I was raised by a single father after my mother left us when I was 3 years old. My father was an educator who taught in Mali at all levels, from primary to university. He not only ensured a superb academic programs for my brother and I, but he also had us practice a martial art called Aikido, which I earned blue belt prior to leaving the country to continue my education in Moscow, Russia, because there was no universities in Mali when I was growing up. So in addition to that, I personally find that sport is a vital complement to any childhood and/or any education. In addition to the positive energy burning opportunity that it provides, the self-esteem, the confidence, the teamwork, the leadership, the partnership, etc., that children gain from practicing sports is priceless. For girls, this is even more paramount, especially in countries like Mali, where these type of opportunities are not afforded to girls in general, relative to boys. Yes, I've now served in the US military for over 24 years. Education, coupled with the leadership and teamwork skills that I learned in sports, got me to where I am today, a senior officer in the US Navy. I founded ACFA to give the same opportunity to the most vulnerable children in Mali. ACFA provides a holistic program that includes nutrition, shelter, education, and healthcare. Our education program encompasses vocational training and sport. Each child practices at least one sport. Currently, we have children practicing basketball, volleyball, taekwondo, and fencing. Today, ACFA children have a total of 47 medals, 21 gold, 19 silver, and 7 bronze. Girls combined have 87% of ACFA total medals. But I want to focus on one particular girl today. Her name is Jakasa. She came to ACFA without having ever attended school because her father had abandoned the family and her mother could not afford to take her children to school. So we put Jakasa into school. And since that day, and it's been over 10 years now, she's ranked top 5 of her classrooms, every single classroom that she's attended. As a matter of fact, most of them she's ranked number 1. In addition to her academic prowess, Jakasa is an elite athlete. She is a true winner with 6 gold medals, 9 silver medals, and 2 bronze medals. Jakasa is a recipient of 36% of ACFA's total medals. This year alone, she earned 2 gold medals and 1 silver medal in fencing. And this is after having had to not get trained for 4 months because of COVID. When that call came for her to go to this training, to go to this competition, the first competition, I said, I don't think she's ready. And the staff in Bamako told me she's always been ready. And sure enough, she went and grabbed the gold medal like nothing. She has represented a club at numerous competitions, both domestic and international. A member of the national and Olympic teams of fencing in Mali, Jakasa represented Mali at 3 African Games and brought home the bronze medal. Today, she is the captain of her fencing team and leads the training in both taekwondo and fencing when the coaches are absent. Most recently, she published a video for the Girls International Day celebrated on 11 October, where she spoke about the difficulties girls face in Mali and what her own dreams are. For a vulnerable child who was living on the street with her mother before coming to ACFA, to have such record achievement is a testimony that if provided the adequate support structure, children can and will thrive. I leave you with a quote from nobody else but Jakasa her own self. When she was interviewed at the African fencing game in Algeria, she said, and I quote, "The most precious thing that has happened to me is receiving an education at ACFA. It allows me to be where I am today and to represent my country with pride," end quote. To learn more about ACFA, please visit our website at www.acfacorp.org. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I am truly humbled.
Thanks, Katie. You leave me speechless. A very inspiring story, and I'm sure Jakasa is definitely right up there in terms of inspiration and motivation, and she continues to achieve. I mean, For us, not necessarily all girls need to win medals to pursue their dreams, but that helps. Thanks for sharing that story. Our next speaker is Victor Parra. Victor is a professional soccer player, has been representing a US indoor men's soccer team. He was part of the NCAA Division I, and as an honorary mention, he was actually the first Latino American valedictorian at his college. He passed out of San Jose State University with complete athletic scholarship. And beyond other things, like finding time to coach my own son and telling him some tricks of soccer, he also finds time in being a motivational speaker, and in his own way has been trying to give back to community through virtual coaching classes with many organizations. Victor, I will not attempt to talk about your professional laurels in the football field or soccer field, as they call it in this part of the world. Why don't you tell us about your journey? I know that you yourself relate a lot with these girls who have come through challenges, but has stuck to their passion and made it where their destiny belonged, and that is in the field of sports.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. And yeah, just before I start, I just wanted to say that all the stories so far have been amazing, and it's great to meet so many people that are so passionate about giving back to those less fortunate. So just wanted to start with that. So thank you. That was really great to hear. And so, yeah, my name is Victor Parra. I was actually born in the smallest state in the United States, in Rhode Island, and it was actually the smallest city. It was called Central Falls. It's in Providence County. Some are familiar with Providence, Rhode Island. If you're not, it's about an hour from Boston. Yeah, my childhood growing up was far from, I would say, normal. I grew up with a single mom. I never met my dad growing up, or even when I was born, he was out of the picture already. I lived in a very difficult area. The education system was not up to par. A lot of the families there didn't speak English, so it was very difficult. Not only the language barrier, but also there was a lot going on. There was a lot of crime, and it was a very troubled city at the time. But my passion was always soccer. So growing up, I would play street soccer. I'd literally play like in the street, and we'd put like 2 little trash cans and kind of play 3v3. And I think that's kind of how I developed some of my skills. I never got coached I would say until I was like 11 years old. So all I knew was just street soccer and kind of just playing with friends and enjoying it. Up until I got noticed by some coaches, I started playing travel soccer, and I started traveling. I think my first time ever out of the country, I went to Italy with the youth national team. I was like 13 maybe. And I was so surprised with, how big the world was. I just never knew. All I knew was that little city in Rhode Island. And, when I come to think about it, a lot of those kids, that's all they know. And it's crazy thinking about it now. But I think for me, soccer, I would say, saved my life. I think that's all I knew at the moment, and that's all I cared about. And even with education, I never had really the guidance and someone pushing me to get my education. I always loved school, and I tried my best. But I never had someone on me, like, a mother and a father that's like, hey, do your homework. Hey, did you get A's today, right? So that was very difficult. But I found a way through soccer. And fast forward to when I was about 18 years old, I managed to graduate high school, which was a big honor for me because I didn't know if I was going to finish at the time. It was a very difficult childhood, and I was just trying my best to have a regular life. So I actually had a lot of scholarships from colleges because I played academy soccer in Boston. However, I was never able to go to a Division I right away only because my grades weren't good enough. I had never took the SAT test. I never got any test prep for that. So that kind of stopped my path a little bit in that moment. But I managed to get to a junior college, Monroe College in New York, and I ended up doing well there. 2 years, I scored a lot of goals, got awards, and did really well in school as well. And every time, I don't know if you all are familiar with that show, The Last Chance University. It's about the football players, right? It's their last chance. And for me, it was really, that was kind of how it was, right? My last chance, you know, if I don't make it there, then I go back to my city and who knows what happens, right? You just, there's no going back. So for me, failure was not an option, right? And so I really had to you know, work my tail off. There was no other option. I ended up getting a scholarship from there to San Jose State, and getting, you know, I was the valedictorian, the first ever, which was amazing because coming from my background, education was never, I guess, big in my life until later on. And I just realized one day, you know, a light clicked and said, hey, if you're going to class, why not try your best, just like you do on the soccer field? You know, why do something if you're not trying your best, right? Why even invest time in anything if you're not giving your all? So that's kind of where I went from there. And then I went on to play in Portugal for 2 seasons. I played back here in California in the MASL. And then just recently I signed in the Philippines, in Asia, this season, which I should be there now. But there's a travel ban, so I'm not able to get there till 2021. But yeah, I think for me, I relate a lot to these girls because it was, I think sports is something that could save someone's life, right? Like for me, if it wasn't for soccer, I would never, I wouldn't know where I would be today. And I think, you know, through the sport, you get a lot of doors open. For example, for me, education open, business opportunities open. And you really just, I think a lot of these kids, and including myself when I was a kid, you know, they're looking to live just a regular life, right? Like I was looking to live just to be a normal human and be able to, you know, wake up and, you know, have a regular day. And I think a lot of kids that are going through these struggles, just like I did, they're not given that opportunity. And I think it's taken for granted. So I'm very passionate about, you know, trying to give back and, you know, help out kids in these situations as much as I can, because I can relate to them and I know how it felt. And I always think of myself back then. So yeah.
Subrata, you're on mute.
Sorry, technology is the problem, not me. Thanks, Victor. I mean, it's not easy for sharing so much that happened in your early childhood, and you make it sound so simple and easy. I could almost hear words of wisdom coming out that you have learned the hard way in your life. For that, you did not have to read a philosopher's book to understand what life is all about. And that's so inspirational. You also touched upon a very important point of family and community. How much a role of family plays, and today's youth and children kind of takes family for granted. We don't feature anywhere, right? But they don't know what they're missing. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. And we'll come back for more. I wanted to say sorry to you. I couldn't find anybody from Philippines joining this call, but the closest I could find was Singapore. So we have people from Singapore also joining early morning today to give you support. Thanks. So these were our 5 eminent speakers, and I know we spent a lot of time, but such inspirational stories and journeys. There is so much to learn already. And again, I would like to thank all of you for being part of this event. And I shout out to all my participants here in the audience. Feel free to give your reactions. If you have anything that you want to comment or direct your comments to anybody in the panel, or you want to ask a question, just go ahead and raise your hands or keep your question in the chat window, and we'll make sure to cover that in this session. And it's very important, like you heard a lot of inspirational stories. We shared some about the girls. You heard about stories of our panelists' life themselves. I encourage you to share your own stories of inspiration that would have given you some direction in some point of your life to make you successful. With that, we'll have some question answer sessions and panel discussions, and I will stop presenting now to give more screen space to all our audience and speakers. All right, so first let me just ask and see if we have any question from our audience here. All right, so in the spirit of continuity, did I hear a question? Tipu, yes, please, go ahead.
Please. Sorry, I still not fast enough on the draw to unmute, practicing that skill. Thank you, this is wonderful. Thank you for organizing this. I was wondering, I mean, you know, I have a daughter who loves to watch TV, like many of us. I was wondering to get someone to go out. It's hard now because of, you know, when they're going to school, gym was on, and so you end up getting some exercise done, and you end up going out, which is hard when you are just or you have a sibling, and it's hard to do that. And I was wondering if you have any strategy for that, given that you work with younger kids, and my daughter is preteen, just the age when they don't want to listen to you. So I was just wondering about that. I think some of you have worked with that age group. I'd love to know if you have any tips.
Well, we have Chris with 3 girls. If you want a parent's view, and if you want a girl's view going through this journey, we have Carla, who herself has gone through that. So, any preference?
You guys seem super motivated, so I am very scared that I'm being either a bad parent or my child is being a bad kid. I would love to hear from both of you if you have the time. I don't want to take over your agenda. So
we will respect your question, but with a comment that your child is definitely a privileged child. I would let Katie. Katie, why don't you take this one? We heard from Chris his perspective, and Carla her perspective on girls. Why don't you take this as a modern day contemporary parent, not getting enough obedience from their girl child?
Well, so everybody's different. You got to find that niche that will click with your daughter. I have raised a daughter, and she's now an adult. And you know, you have to find what is interested for that child. My husband, whom I didn't tell you, actually played soccer for our national team in Mali when we were growing up. Oh my God, what did he not do for our daughter to be a soccer player? Just will not work, because that's not what she was into. Today, she is an instructor of yoga. So that was what was interested to her. So I think that having an open conversation to find what is of interest to the child helps a lot. That's on my personal side. On the ACFA side, like I said, every child practices some sport. We gave them the choice, again, with that same background, knowing that they will thrive only in what they want. So we've given them the choices. We've had some kids that started with basketball and ended up doing taekwondo because that's what they wanted better. So if I can strongly encourage one thing, open the line of communication, very important, especially at that age, by the way, and make sure that you understand her and what her needs. I guarantee you there is something that would be of interest to her better than TV. You just got to be able to find it.
It's ice cream right now, but I'm working on something else.
So yeah.
I think thanks, Katie, and just to in the interest of bringing us back to the main topic here, I think talking about ice creams, I'm thinking about dreams and aspirations. So if we kind of generalize it to see how children who do not have the right means how are they able to even dream or have the right aspirations? So maybe I'll just throw it open that what do you think are the challenges that lets the children, the girls, more so from vulnerable, marginalized communities, to have a dream? We don't even realize that sometimes that itself is such a huge challenge. Going into a slum area, and Victor touched upon this, that he never even knew what's beyond. So, how do we make sure that girls start believing in themselves, and they will start believing in themselves when they know they have a dream? How do we encourage them to first have an aspiration, have a dream? And maybe I'll let Carla start on this. And Carla, you could have a reference to one of your talks that you gave on YouTube, which talked about how do you fix something that isn't broken?
Yeah, well, the first thing that I think of to answer that question, and I'll relate it back to that talk. But the first thing that I think of is I think of like the refugee youth that I work with refugee soccer. I'm not a parent, so I can't give you parenting advice. But I think of the young kids that I work with there, and for them, they sometimes just need to see someone that is like them achieving a dream. So, for example, they need to see someone that's from the same country as them achieving a dream. They need to see maybe a woman achieving their dream, someone who they can relate to. And when you see that path, it feels like it's more attainable. I mean, I think of starting law school, and this is more of a personal thing, but again, no one in my family were lawyers, and the legal profession is actually the least diverse profession in the United States. And so the first year was actually a bit discouraging for me because I would go to these networking events and I'd go to law firms and I would just see people that I didn't relate with. They were good people. But I didn't see any Latino women. I rarely even saw women to begin with, right? And so it was kind of hard for me to see, where is my path? How do I fit if I don't see myself in any of these roles? And sometimes I think the best thing that we can do for girls, young girls, is show them other women. And they don't even have to be from the same country. I think that helps. But show them other women who, like them, maybe came from similar circumstances or had similar obstacles and were able to achieve their dreams, and just show them that that is attainable. So that's the first thing that comes to my mind, is just connecting young girls with people who they perhaps aspire to be like. In relation to that talk that you mentioned, that speech that I gave, that was in relation to, sometimes we think that if nothing bad is happening, that it therefore is fine, that we don't need to improve. If nothing bad is happening, if nothing's broken, we don't need to fix it. And that speech was about the American education system and how much funding we put into American education. But it's the similar concept can be applied to, I think, girls who have a hard time finding dreams or working towards their dreams. Is sometimes we think, well, if they're not doing anything wrong or if they're not misbehaving, then we don't need to put any more time and resources to them. But obviously, you look back at it and you realize, no, just because something isn't wrong or they're not misbehaving doesn't mean that. Rather, we should be looking to inspire girls and young women to be reaching their potential and to be striving. And again, I think one of the ways we do that is by mentorship and network. I mean, I think that is one of the best things that we can do to serve people, is to be there for them and to mentor them and to just believe in them. I think sometimes, I think of the three girls that you mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, they had that within them the whole time. They had that potential and they had that talent within them the whole time, but it helps to have someone believe in them. They needed someone to believe in them and tell them they could do it and encourage them, and that made all the difference.
It's all right, thank you. Chris, you want to add something to that? You're on mute, I think.
Hey guys, this is Chance. I just want to piggyback on this comment, if I may.
Sure, please go ahead.
So a little bit about myself. I actually grew up playing sports all the time. have 3 kids of my own now. Actually, to Victor's point, I actually played for Coach Beam at Laney College of Last Chance Youth that last season before going off to Berkeley. And, you know, just seeing my kids in the tech era, I am younger, but I do have kids. It's like kids don't necessarily want to get out there and play. Like I'm super young, but I do come from, you know, the generation of actually playing outside. I work hard to, you know, provide for my family, but when you don't have a lot, it kind of puts it in perspective. Like when we were playing sports, it wasn't just all about sports. It was a means to get out, a means to, you know, how do I use sports to advance my life? And I think as you work harder and your kids get more privileges, they kind of see at sports and going outside as just like, I have to get exercise, rather than like, this is what I got. Like, this is how I'm going to advance myself, because they have all the luxuries around them. So it becomes a little harder to get them motivated. And I also coach high school at the high school level. So I see, like, you know, tech is all around, and, you know, tech is the new wave. So it's a little harder to get those kids motivated, especially your own kids. Else that, you know, sports give you, it's not really like the physical or it's just what you take away out of sports, and it doesn't have to necessarily be on a team. You could just go out there with your daughter, put on some roller skates, you know, throw a softball around or a baseball, and, you know, just build those lessons through sports, and just experience time spent with your daughter. So I just want to add that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chance. Great comments. And I think I have an interesting thought, and I would probably lead the discussion towards that a little more, wherein we are talking about our children or youth who belong to privileged families and societies. What kind of exposure or experience do they need to understand and value? So maybe it's like the same answer to both issues, because what the girls from vulnerable societies or backgrounds miss is what girls or children from privileged societies don't even realize. So talking about youth here, and probably my question is more towards Victor or Mubarak. It's great to see that at a very young age, you guys thought about giving back to society, which is a great feeling. It's either you have it or you don't. How do you make sure that there are more and more of you, you know, like it's challenging. There is limited time as you are progressing through your own challenges and achievements. How do you find time, and how do you find the motivation to give back? Maybe Victor, you can start.
Yeah. So for me, I think it is difficult. I think a lot of, you know, first and foremost, everyone is, especially during these times, during the pandemic, everyone is kind of trying to focus on themselves and taking care of themselves and their families, right? Of course. For me, I think the motivation just comes from I think it's the way I grew up, right? I think I understand that there's a lot of people out there, you know, struggling. And I think every day that I wake up, I think about that, and I say, hey, like if I have a little problem one day, I always know in the back of my mind that things could always be worse. You know, I know we were talking about different countries, and there's so many countries out there that are not, you know, as lucky as the United States to have so much resources, and we're very lucky in those terms. And I think for me, any way that I can give back, I will. I think a lot of people think that giving back means financially. Of course, financially, it helps a lot. However, even for me, even just like I go to schools and do motivational speaking. So I'll go to schools that have maybe a low graduation rate, or schools that the kids are mainly coming from different countries and they're having language barriers, or it's a lot more difficult for them to move forward. And I just give them my story, and I motivate them, and I talk to them, and I let them know that they're human, right? I let them know that they're being heard, and we care about them, because I think a lot of these kids in rough areas, they don't really get that at home. And for someone to come in and show them that they're important and that their dreams matter, it could be the difference between them moving forward with that goal or them not moving forward with that goal and possibly going, a route where no one wants them to go. So I think that's kind of where I find my motivation, and those are little things that I do and that, can be done to help, those less fortunate.
Thanks, Victor. Mubarak?
Yeah, just piggybacking off Victor. While growing up, my parents did everything to make sure, like, where I am today, getting me extra help with teachers, coaches, training, and which I'm very, very grateful for. But other kids don't have the access to, these kind of privileges, and it it's no fault of theirs, but it's just like the dire circumstances that they just find themselves in, and you know I just feel like until other people's stories become personal, they'll never be changed. And it doesn't even have to be in sports. It can be in education, in politics. Like for example, maybe something catastrophic is happening in a country like Belgium. People here can be like, "Oh, we're not in Belgium. It doesn't concern us. Like we're in the U.S." Like we need to be more empathetic to our fellow humans. Like, we're all one. All these labels of like, color, race, religion needs to be like put away, and that also like relates to sport. Like if you see someone that needs help, like you should have that feeling in you to want to help them, especially if you're privileged, you have the 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 resources to be able to help them, and a lot of kids, boys and girls, are very, very talented, but they don't just have the exposure, they don't have the push from some of them don't even have family to even cater for their needs. Like they're you know basically surviving each day, and sports is really an outlet for a lot of kids to like express their emotions. And like for me, like when I'm in a bad mood, I go out to play soccer. That makes me happier. And just like Chance was saying, like I went to Laney College. I know a lot of those athletes, and playing football is the only thing that could give them even an access to education. Going to college, getting a scholarship. That's the only way like they could you know make a name for themselves and then give back to their communities as well.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Mubarak. Uh, yes, Katie, please. Go
So
ahead.
I just want to piggyback on that. Everything that was said so far, it's very important to have somebody that you can look up to. Mentorship is very important for these kids. And something that we did at ACFA is that, making sure that we have these connections, and our kids were invited to the national basketball team training. And since then, they actually come and mentor our kids periodically. And now all of our basketball team players are like, I want to be like the next person, I want to be like that. And these are members of the national team who have come just like children at ACFA from nowhere, because they had difficulties and they had scholarship to get and where they are right now. And looking up to somebody like that is really important.
I'll also just add in as well. I mean, I will say, I mean, we are in a climate of COVID, of course, and it's very different. It's a new norm. But I will be remiss to say that racial equality, it's real. I am in the Fillmore district here in San Francisco, and there's a lot of low income people here. And I say that because I know we're talking about sports and everything else. And in the midst of COVID, I also do fundraising. right? So there's a lot of money out there, right? So money sometimes also gives us access to different things, right? So we want to get exposure for our girls or things. As far as sports is concerned, we're trying to hire a grant writer right now that can give us the funds for grants so that we can have more access, you know, for those people that are less fortunate than us.
Thanks, Chris. All great points. And maybe I will just shout out to the audience for any final question here before I kind of close this round of discussion and have some advice taken from our panel to all of us who are willing to give back to our community. Any one final question from audience? If not, then staying true to the topic and thanking all of you who have joined here.
So,
I know
I think,
all of us. Yeah.
I think Rohit has a question.
Yeah.
Oh,
sorry,
sorry.
I joined in middle. Yeah, I was curious, like, what is the state of like in terms of like different non-profits partnering? Like, for example, like there are maybe like different, like say World Women Foundation, they are doing mentoring in STEM or other, right? There are other parts. I was curious, like in how people are putting the forces together to solve this. Curious, what is the state for this particular area? And second question for me is like today we saw, like I saw a lot of article, the women won Nobel Prize. So, and become main topic now, the STEM education people, girls will be more motivated because they see a big role models out there, right? The woman winning Nobel Prize alone without sharing with the men. So what is the moment where we feel like will be like a kind of a big moment where we want to see happening, which can make this more just a open, everyone aware of it? Like today, let's say we are discussing in a small group and some people are aware, a lot of people are not aware. But what is the one main thing which you think can make it like just very clear, like big thing, right? For example, in India, MS Dhoni becoming the captain and winning just opened all the young people becoming cricketers, right? Or like we saw like some examples. I was curious, like what is that then another moment where it will become very mainstream? So these are the two questions I had in mind.
Thanks for asking that question, Rohit. Of course, in the beginning of the session, we kind of try to share some inspirational stories that that kind of focused on the aspect that what's the definition of success in the context of an underprivileged girl who's vulnerable due to all challenges in her life, and that definition of success is to take those first steps to be able to express herself, to be able to form an aspiration, a dream, and to be able to take those first steps. And we feel very strongly that sports is a great enabler in having a girl found her confidence back, found her determination of all the positive aspects, which is already within the girl. And you also bring out a great aspect, which we will cover in the later part, about partnerships, how different organizations are partnering with each other. So maybe on that thought, I will let our panelists comment and also address all of us audience that independently as individuals or as corporates or as executives, how can we do different things which enables our effort towards building this solid infrastructure or a solid foundation of all these disadvantaged girls, getting the right support, getting the right encouragement. What is your message for all of us here so that each one of us in our own ways can, help underprivileged children in a way that we create our own legacy? So maybe we can start with Chris.
Sure. Thanks again for having me here. I think I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. I mean, there's so many grants out there, and I think that money gives us access to do a lot of things. And so I know for us at Booker T, our budget is 50% of our budget comes from the city, right? And then 30% of it comes from other means. Right now, we're in a state to where we have to raise money or our lights are going to go off. And what does that mean? That means that we're not able to serve the low income kids that come in here every day, and it might be their last meal, right? This is where we feed them and take care of them. We nourish them and inspire them, and we empower them. Those are our 3 models that we have here at Booker T. But I would just say that really look out for the money and the access, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Carla?
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. It reminds me of I asked a very similar question about a year ago. This was before COVID, but I was getting ready to go down to meet with clients on the border who were asylum seekers. They had been detained at the United States border, and they were living in a detention center. And so I went down to help them prepare for their credible fear interviews so that they could hopefully start the asylum seeking process. And I asked a very similar question of the mentors that I was working with. And they told me, don't be afraid to be proximate. And I didn't really know what that meant. But as the week went on and I continued working with the women and children in that center, I learned that you can't be afraid to hear people's stories and get close to them. And it takes time and it takes energy to get close to somebody and to hear the struggles that they have and to hear about the fears that they have. But you'll never regret it. You'll never regret getting close enough to help someone and to let them feel their love. And so I would say, I totally agree with Chris, like your money, that's one great way that you can help, because there are people and organizations who want to help and all they need are the resources and they will do it. And so I would say do that for sure. But another thing is if you're not in a position to do that, don't be afraid to get close to these young girls who need some mentorship, who need some guidance. And don't be afraid to ask them about their dreams and ask them about, what do you feel is keeping you from your dreams? What can I do to help you? I think sometimes people just need a little bit of encouragement. I think of, there's so many young girls that I can think of just saying like, hey, have you ever thought about going into computer programming? Have you ever thought about going to play soccer? Just little things that could put the little spark in their mind. And they think, oh, maybe I should. No, I haven't thought about it, but maybe I should do it. And just getting close and being willing to tell them and encourage them, I think, is one of the best ways that we help children, but we especially help girls and young women, is not being afraid to have those conversations and following the conversations about their dreams and their aspirations, leaving them with some encouragement.
Thanks, Carla. That's great. So we are going to go back to the presentation, but I do invite, if there are any comments, remarks, or any stories that audience would like to share. I know this is a very, very short time. I'm just trying to share my screen again, once again. We can't do justice to so many inspiring journeys, so many inspiring stories, and there are so many things that probably I haven't been able to cover. I haven't covered Mubarak's dream of an education, a university in Nigeria. We haven't covered a lot of how Katie is trying to expand her family home for children to a 5-acre complex, if I remember correct, for hundreds of children to benefit from sports infrastructure and education. We haven't given looking at Chris, I feel he wanted to chat so much more about Booker T and its 100-year celebrations, and Carla and Victor. So I'm sorry if we have not been able to cover all that you wanted to share, but I do want to make sure that all our audience here gets the message that we wanted to deliver. They understand how they can participate in this initiative, which we are starting. Like to the question of Rohit, how different organizations can partner together. And this is also one of our aims, to have speakers like you, to be able to build long-term partnerships. So I hope you're able to see my screen. So I will quickly go into introducing, usually we do it in the beginning of the session, but I just wanted to quickly introduce the 3 of us who are actually driving the KickOff Solutions initiatives. you've listened to me a lot. Anand here is basically driving a lot of partnerships. All that we've done today at the grassroots level, he's been driving. He's based out of India. And Mohammed has been a source of inspiration, especially for me, because he's right here in Mountain View. And sometimes 1 + 1 becomes 11, and you are able to do so much more. All three of us share another background. We are all Googlers. We all work with Google, and that helps us leverage a lot of Google time resources in a lot of things that we want to do, like leveraging this Google Meet. I would quickly pass the floor to Anand so that he can quickly share our process flow, some milestones, talk a little bit about our partners, and then we will end with what our goal is today and a brief corporate video. Thank you so much, everyone. But still keep flowing your comments, remarks on the chat window. We'll still try to see if we can address them. Anand.
Thanks so much, Subrata. And firstly, thank you for the panel and for the participants for asking. It's just so humbling to be a part of such a movement, and there is so much to learn. We just feel extremely inspired to be in this midst. I'll take 3 minutes to try and talk to you through these things that Subrata pointed out. Firstly, what do we do about our partners and what our journey has been? The first part of what we've really been focused on is to be able to build very strong, credible partnerships. To Rohit's point, I think that's what we realized was often missing, at least in the midst of in the Indian ecosystem to start. And we really have been focusing on making physical field visits to understand what girls are going through and what the nonprofits that are working in this space really need. And it's been a labor of love to an extent. There's a very small number of nonprofits that we want to be laboriously working through to build trusted partnerships. The focus, to Carla's point and to Chris's point again, of mentorship on allyship for the girls. So what we really built out over a period of time is a program that we focus on as our flagship, which is around typically 2-year scholarship programs for girls, which also focuses on non-monetary support through actual connections on mentoring, and also exposure to different perspectives across corporate and global worldviews that they often could be missing. But the real intention is to be able to bring these stories, again, to the point that was made, can we create these hero stories that inspire a million other girls? Can we make somebody relatable and bring them out there? We're still on that journey. It's early days. We are learning still, but the objective is that. And with that, we can go just a little bit in the kind of partnerships before we come to our journey. But the 3 kinds of areas that we have been successful in finding really credible partners are these: slum community development, tribal development, and social integration through sport. And we've been very fortunate to have been having almost familial relationships with partner organizations like Slum Soccer, the Oscar Foundation, Ahan Foundation, the Universal Frisbee Players Association of India. And we're looking to still expand and really focus on global partnerships going forward. But our largest focus areas have been in terms of enabling infrastructure, enabling international exposure for girls, and really looking at both monetary as well as mentoring support that, at least at this point in time, we have found to be able to lend us compounding value for these girls. And we continue to cement these relationships, and we believe in really highlighting the value these nonprofit partners are bringing. And what we will do is follow up with some content so that everybody here is able to know about them. And our job is to try and really amplify the message that they are driving. But your journey that we are going through is really still early days, but it's been 5 years since Subrata started it, from what was really about enabling exposure for kids who didn't have enough access to actual tournaments that they could participate in, to access to international exposure, to now what really is coming together is actual scholarship programs, which is more bespoke for every single girl. And we make an effort to be able to know them individually and really understand how we can build their stories out in a way that really inspires others. And with the goal to really get, by the end of 2022, to hopefully at least 100+ scholarships. It's still a small number, but we want to invest in the depth of these investments and build out ideally 50 plus stories that we can take. To Rohit's point, we don't know if it be as big as a Nobel Prize, but we do want it to be something that hopefully is a hallmark event or a period that people can, and a lot of girls can look back and look at for inspiration. Let's go. And we're looking for partnerships still. I think it's a core of what we do, and we want to be able to make that the biggest time investment to really understand, evaluate the sanctity of the relationship and build it up. With that, I know it's a little bit of a rush. I know we're at time. I'll let Mohammed close off as we talk about our goals and a short 2-minute video at the end.
Yeah. So one thing that was like a super like inspirational is like last year we funded this fundraising campaign, and we basically like sponsored girls from India to go to the Dana Cup in Denmark, and surprisingly we learned that they won the World Cup. So one thing that we've been trying to do is like inspire those girls, have an impact in their life, use education and sport as a mean to change their lives. And those are things that like usually in tech company we try to measure everything through like data and numbers, but sometimes there's impact that you have on people's life that you cannot measure with numbers, and it's like immeasurable and it's super powerful. So one of the things that we're trying to do is like continue working on the such initiative, continue to raise funds to support as many girls as we can, and not only on like not only here in the US, but we're trying to do this globally. And we know that there's a lot of girls globally that need the support, and we will encourage you to like donate to like the KickOff Solution campaign if you're able to. And the pledge that we make is that we'll continue to use like our network, the Google platform, to continue to like raise funds and continue to like share the stories of this girl globally. So like, thank you very much for the speakers. It was like a super powerful conversation, and like we really appreciate all the energy and the support and the time. Subroto,
Thanks, Mohammed.
yeah.
Thanks, Mohammed. Just a final thank you to all participants, everybody. If you have 2.5 minutes additional, we are saying bye, but we are leaving you with this video, which kind of summarizes our message here. Thank you so much, and we'll follow it up. You will get the complete deck with more information, because now we have your email IDs so that we can continue this conversation as we move ahead. Thank you so much. Every girl deserves to fly. Thank you so much, everyone. And we'll be in touch for taking this discussion forward.
Thank you. This
Thank
was
you.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Carla.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot, Carla.
Thank you. This was wonderful. I greatly appreciate it.
Nice to meet you guys,
Yeah, and-
Mubarak and Carla.
Yeah, it was nice to meet you too. Again, I'm so sorry that I probably made this as painful as possible for you because I was so hard to get a hold of, but I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
We will make you pay for it. We will be in constant touch with you for the next program.
Please do.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for everything you're doing. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. You too. You too.
Thank you, Mr. Subrata.
Thanks for adding the Mr. I really appreciate the honor. Mubarak, you're doing a great job, man. And we'll talk more about your university in Nigeria next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Stay in touch.